Archangel Michael's voice echoes on July 11th. He's protecting you still, but if you're away, you'll lose what matters most. Don't lose his protection. Open quickly. In the stillness of the spiritual realm, the voice of Archangel Michael does not whisper. It echoes like thunder wrapped in compassion. On July 11th, something holy stirs the veil between heaven and earth. You have felt it, a shiver that moves through your spine at 2:33 a.m., the dream you can't forget, the interruption you dismissed as just a coincidence. But it wasn't coincidence. It was your final protection. It was Michael reaching into your timeline, anchoring your soul from falling into disaster that hasn't yet arrived but is already circling. Michael is not here to scare you. He's here to awaken you. His sword is drawn, but not in battle yet. He guards your name in rooms you haven't stepped into. He intercepts the curses thrown by those who smile in your face. He holds back storms that were never meant to reach you, because your mission is not yet complete. But protection is not permanent when obedience becomes delayed. And child, you've delayed. You've brushed off the signals, silenced the nudges, postponed the prayer, and now your delay is becoming your danger. He has whispered through music. He has warned you in silence. He has screamed through heartbreaks you didn't understand at the time. And still, you look back, longing for what nearly destroyed you. On July 11th, his voice echoes again, not in fear, but in holy sorrow. Because if you turn away again, if you let that familiar temptation in again, if you delay obedience again, you may lose what matters most. Not just relationships, not just resources, but the peace, clarity, and divine presence that was crafted just for you. That is the true loss. Type I am shielded to get blessing 7412. There is no such thing as a random spiritual warning. Michael's voice only echoes when silence would cost too much. And now, silence is the price of your destiny being handed over to hands that do not honor it. This is why you are here. Not just to be warned, but to be restored. Not just to escape danger, but to walk with confidence. You are not reading this by chance. The echo was aimed at your soul. You heard it because it was meant for you. So don't just hear this, receive it. Don't just scroll. Engage it. The time has come to stop turning away. The covering is still over you, but barely. And this message, this moment, this divine page, is your tether to what heaven is still willing to give. But only if you move now. The next part is not random. It is rescue. The realm between obedience and regret is a silent battlefield, one where angels fight without applause and demons smile when you procrastinate your healing. On July 11th, the sky opened again for you, not with lightning, but with mercy. Archangel Michael stood still, not charging forward, but pausing, because your spirit was beginning to drift into a place that could unravel everything. You see, protection is not merely a blanket that covers everyone indefinitely. It's a covenant. And you, child, have been breaking the agreement silently with every time you said, maybe later. This message is not for everyone. Most will scroll past it, numbed by distraction. But you paused.
Hi, we're Charity Water. If we lost you at Charity, we get it. Give us a moment to change your mind. At Charity.
But you paused. You stayed. Because you felt the friction in your soul, like two roads tugging at your feet. One, paved with familiarity, comfort, and delay. The other, paved with surrender, pruning, and destiny. You know which one Michael is pointing toward. You just haven't had the courage to fully turn. But let me be clear. On July 11th, the door to the wrong path swings wide, inviting you with memories that feel warm but are rooted in poison. Michael's warning is not poetic, it's precise. He's watched you grieve things that were designed to leave. He's watched you plead for the return of a chapter that was never meant to have a sequel. He stood beside you while you cried over connections that were draining your spiritual battery. And still, he protected you. Even when you ignored the signs. Even when you clung to the very thing that was poisoning your peace. But now, the silence has ended. Michael is no longer whispering. He's echoing. And that echo is shaking the foundation of your delay. Type I am rising to get blessing 5678. You don't realize what's at stake when you delay. It's not just about a bad relationship or a risky job or a toxic habit. It's about the assignment your soul signed up for. The people waiting on your voice. The generations depending on your healing. The abundance waiting on your alignment. Delay is not neutral. It is destructive. And the longer you linger, the louder the wrong spirits become. This is why Michael is crying out. Because your hesitation has now become the gateway for infiltration. Yes, there are voices in your circle that carry honey but hide poison. People who smile with you but are waiting for you to fall, because your fall would feed their emptiness. You sense this. It's sudden heaviness when a certain name pops up. The tightness in your chest when someone hugs you too long.
Hello, this is video. Don't know how many I've tried, but I'm trying to get one right. There's Larry chewing her ass. Hey Larry. Hey Larry. I said Uncle Harry is. What? Let me get the light on her. Let's see. There's Super Larry. Yes. And then Mr. Red Boy, he is very tired. Let's see. There he is, sleeping. Aww. We're gonna eat an MRE oatmeal cookie. I hope that you like this. I really love yours. And I'm not really real good at this or practiced at it. For you, I'm doing it.
That eerie resistance every time you try to pray for clarity. That's not in your imagination. That's spiritual interference. And Michael is trying to cut it off before it becomes too deeply rooted. You may be wondering why now. Why July 11th? Because something is aligning. Heaven's calendar is not random. It is strategic. There are windows of supernatural reversal and restoration, and this is one of them. But the condition is obedience. Full, fast, humble obedience. Not partial, not performative, not I'll try, but I surrender. Heaven is not impressed by how loud you cry if you're still feeding what's killing you. And Michael, though full of grace, cannot hold back the consequences you keep inviting in. Type I am delivered to get blessing 7833. You've been waking up tired even after 8 hours of sleep. That's not fatigue. It's spiritual exhaustion. Because it's tiring carrying wounds you were meant to release. It's draining pretending you're okay when your spirit has been warning you for weeks. And every time you said, "I'm fine," your angels wept. Because they saw what was forming behind the scenes while you stayed silent. Michael is fighting for you. But he won't fight against you. If your will is married to what heaven is trying to break off, even angels have to step aside. That is what this message is. Your divine interruption. A chance to realign before the wrong thing becomes permanent. Before the silence becomes absence. before the mercy becomes memory. This is the part where most people say, "I'll think about it." Don't be most people. Be the one who moves, who obeys, who says enough. Be the one who finally turns toward protection rather than pretending you can't hear it. You don't have forever. The window will not remain open much longer. But the moment you step toward obedience, heaven moves mountains you never even saw. Michael is not just warning you. He's ready to walk with you. The truth that most never uncover is this: divine protection often looks like rejection, disappointment, or isolation. Archangel Michael has shielded you from more than you can count, not just physical harm, but soul corruption. There are people you begged to stay who would have dismantled your peace if they had remained. There are doors you pounded on that would have led to destruction had they opened.
If your child has used Roblox, you might be owed significant compensation from a lawsuit currently underway. Find out if you qualify. While marketed as safe for children,
Led to destruction had they opened. And in every one of those moments, Michael stood between you and devastation, not with a shout, but with a silent hand. But now, that hand trembles, not because his power is weighing, but because your will keeps resisting. You've asked for clarity, and heaven responded. You've asked for confirmation, and here it is. But will you listen now that the message doesn't match your desire? Will you still honor the divine even when it challenges your comfort? Because the longer you romanticize what God already remove it, the easier it is for the enemy to use your memory as a weapon. Michael's voice is echoing because your memory's lying. It's highlighting the sweetness and hiding the rot. The connection you missed was a snare. The place you wish you were was sinking. The life you envy is not equipped to carry your calling. Michael wants you to see what he sees, not just what you feel. He sees the toxic thread behind the praise. He sees the manipulation behind the smile. He sees the spiritual leeches feeding on your delay. And most painfully, he sees you, stuck between knowing better and still reaching back. This is not just a moment of warning. It is a line in the spiritual sand. On one side, continued chaos masked as comfort. On the other, painful release that leads to holy stability. Your spirit already knows this. That's why your peace has been inconsistent. That's why your dreams have been strange. That's why your joy feels borrowed. Because something has shifted, and you're not crazy for feeling it. Type I am chosen to get blessing 6969. Michael has not abandoned you. He hath been waiting, not on your perfection but your decision. God does not expect you to have all the strength, but he requires your surrender. This next level cannot be entered with divided loyalty. The people who came with you this far cannot all go with you forward. And every time you try to drag a soul not assigned to your next season, you lose time, clarity, and energy. Your delay is not just costing you peace, it's costing you position. You're supposed to be further. You're supposed to be stronger. But something you refused to release hath been quietly stealing your ascent. And now, Michael is pressing the matter. That name you keep thinking about. A decision you keep postponing. That environment you've been afraid to leave. Those aren't just natural concerns. They're spiritual weights. And you're running out of time to keep dragging them forward. July 11th is not just a date. It's a window. It's a divine checkpoint. You're either going to rise or retreat. But heaven won't wait forever while you sit in indecision. You've wondered why things haven't been flowing, why opportunities are delayed, why prayers feel like echoes. It's because heaven is waiting for your no to the wrong thing before it releases your yes to the right thing. And that's where Michael comes in. He's not just a protector. He's a purifier. and his sword is ready not to hurt, but to cut, to sever what no longer serves your elevation, to remove the poison that's hiding inside your preference, to break the soul tie you've been calling loyalty. If this word has resonated with your spirit and awakened fresh boldness in your heart, we invite you to sow a super thanks of $20. Your support helps us continue sharing prophetic insight, clarity, and strength with others navigating the path from betrayal to blessing. You can also partner with us through a donation via PayPal. Just click the support here link in the video description. Every gift, big or small, fuels our ability to keep delivering encouragement and truth to those who need it most. And be sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a moment of divine direction, spirit-led revelation, and timely encouragement crafted for your breakthrough. Type I am awakened to get blessing 8585. This will not be easy. Divine surgery never is. But the healing on the other side will make the cutting worth it. You've tried to fix things God told you to leave. You've prayed for revival when you were supposed to walk away. And now the weight of it all is crushing your focus. But you don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to keep guessing. The message is clear. Turn. Turn away from what was, and step into what is being handed to you. The voice that echoes isn't distant. It's divine. And it's calling your name for a reason.
Was it really God's wish to kill Abraham's elder son? Why Isaac needed to be punished by God if he did not harm anyone?
It's divine. And it's calling your name for a reason. Don't miss it. Don't view it. Don't medicate it. Answer it. Archangel Michael is closer than you think. And this echo will either save you or haunt you, depending on your response. Heaven has more for you, but only if you're willing to lose what you were never meant to keep. Every divine instruction has an expiration. And the more you delay, the more vulnerable your spirit becomes to outside voices that echo louder than truth. Archangel Michael's voice is holy, but it's also timed. That's why the echo on July 11th isn't random. It's calibrated, measured, delivered in a moment when your spirit is teetering between full obedience and disguised rebellion. You've convinced yourself that staying in place is safer than stepping forward. But in the realm of the spirit, hesitation is a doorway for harm. There's a kind of danger that doesn't scream. It seduces. It looks like the old comfort, the familiar message, the once forgotten name that suddenly shows up in your dreams or texts you out of nowhere. Don't be fooled. That's not coincidence, it's orchestration. Because the moment you moved one step toward surrender, the enemy sent bait to reel you back in. But this time, Michael is alerting you. You've been down this road before, and you know how it ends. This time, you're not being pulled back because you're weak. You're being targeted because you're finally getting strong. But strength without surrender is a setup. You cannot resist what you secretly desire to keep. And Michael is warning you now, if you delay this decision any longer, the very thing you want to heal may become the source of your downfall. Heaven doesn't exaggerate. When Michael's voice echoes, it's not because you need more time, it's because the time is nearly up. There are blessings assigned to your name that have been postponed not because God is punishing you, but because He's protecting you from mismanaging what you're not spiritually prepared to hold. Type I am ready to get blessing 4747. You've asked for the next level. You've prayed for clarity, elevation, peace, and financial breakthrough. But what if Michael is saying, I already brought it to the door? You just didn't answer fast enough. Heaven's rhythm is not dictated by human logic. If you keep trying to align your obedience with your comfort, you'll miss it every time. The divine doesn't wait on feelings. It responds to faith. and your faith is tested when nothing makes sense but you obey anyway. Your delay isn't just about procrastination. It's about fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of a change. Fear of letting go of the identity you built around brokenness. But if you don't let that version of you die, the healed version can't rise. And Michael won't empower the shadow version of you that clings to past pain as proof of who you are. That's not who heaven sees. That's not who God has equipped. The real you, the chosen, whole, and focused you, is suffocating under the weight of delay. Michael sees it. He knows the war in your mind. The nights you almost decided to let go but still stayed. The days when your smile was just a mask stretched over anxiety. The moments when you opened your Bible but couldn't hear anything. He sees it all. But he also sees your power, your potential, your permission, if only you'd step into it. In this moment right here, this is the invitation. This is the shift. The time to stop dancing with delay and start walking with destiny. Type I'm aligned to get blessing 9191. You cannot keep both. You cannot keep what God is removing and expect what He's releasing. The more you hold on, the more you suffocate the promise trying to breathe inside you. You've been asking heaven for signs, and the signs have come. This message is one of them. The conversation that didn't sit right. The call you missed. The sudden unrest around someone you used to trust. All signs. All divine alarms. And yet, still, Michael protects. Still, he guards.
Audiobooks are no longer optional for authors. They are essential. Hi, I'm Sarah from Spines, an online publisher.
Still, he guards. But for how long? The edge is closer than you think. And while you may feel like you have time, spiritually, time is compressing. What you do in the next few days will shape the next few years. And this isn't to scare you, it's to awaken you. Michael is not a character in a story. He is a force in the spirit realm assigned to war for your soul. And his voice is not emotional, it's eternal. It carries warning, yes, but also wonder. Because the same message that warns can also lift you into a new dimension, if you respond. You've been circling the same mountain, praying for change but resisting the cost. Let this be the part where the cycle ends. Let this be the line you draw in the spirit. The delay has already cost you enough. Don't let it cost you everything. Michael is ready. Heaven is moving. Will you rise? There comes a moment in every divine timeline when heaven stops waiting. Not out of punishment, but precision. Because delay, when stretched too long, breeds distortion. It takes what was meant to bless you and warps it into a burden. And that's the danger you now face. Archangel Michael's voice is echoing not to scare you, but to awaken you from spiritual anesthesia. Too long have you been numbed by comfort. Too long have you convinced yourself that maybe tomorrow is the same as I'm ready now. But July 11th was marked in the spirit because it is not another chance. It is the chance. Michael isn't speaking from a distance. He's here, watching, guarding, mourning your hesitation, yet still holding the line. But he cannot hold it forever. Every spiritual assignment comes with boundaries. Your window, once wide, is now narrowing. And if you do not move, the weight of what you refuse to let go of will become the weight that crushes your next season. You weren't created for that. You were built for more. Your name is written on scrolls that hold plans beyond your wildest comprehension. But the scroll cannot unroll while your hands are still clutching what should have been laid at the altar. This is where most souls fold. They get tired of waiting and walk back into bondage. They confuse divine silence with absence and rush into decisions that feel fast but are actually fatal. Michael's echo is your interruption from that mistake. And make no mistake, the pressure you're feeling now isn't random. It's the friction between what heaven has ordained and what your soul is resisting. You're not just being pulled, you're being summoned. And that's a weight not everyone can carry. But you were chosen to carry it. The question is, will you? Type I am chosen to get blessing 6060. You've been given mercy after mercy, protection after protection. But mercy is not an infinite resource when obedience remains absent. God will never stop loving you. But that doesn't mean He will keep opening doors you're too afraid to walk through. Eventually, the blessing reroutes. The favor lifts. The assignment shifts to someone else willing to say yes. You've seen it happen to others. You've felt it happen in seasons of your own life. A missed moment. The dry silence. A haunting feeling that you should have acted when it was time. Don't let this be another one of those chapters. Because July 11th is not just another date. It is the divine checkpoint where grace meets consequence. It is the moment heaven asks, will you finally trust what I see instead of what you feel? You've been crying for peace, but peace cannot land where disorder is tolerated. You've been asking for clarity, but clarity requires cutting away the noise. You've been asking for companionship, but heaven won't send someone healthy to a soul still tied to dysfunction. This is why Michael's warning feels louder. It's not louder. You're just finally quiet enough to hear what's always been ringing. You are not powerless. Even now, after the delay, after the hesitation, after the half steps, you still have authority. Heaven never revoked your access. But access without action is wasted inheritance. And the angels assigned to your life are growing restless, not in judgment, but in anticipation. They've been waiting on your yes.
Trust shattered. Your guard goes up. Now you keep your distance. Broken trust.
Yes. Your full yes. Not your conditional yes. Not your once things feel safe yes. But your trembling, radical, reckless, obedient yes. That's what unlocks the real shift. That's what activates the true protection Michael carries for you. Type I'm moving to get blessing 2929. You've already survived what tried to kill you. You've already overcome things others didn't. So why, now, at the threshold of breakthrough, would you cower back into delay? You didn't come this far to watch the promise pass you by. You didn't endure all those battles just to become numb in the final hour. You are not the version of yourself that was addicted to comfort and confusion. You are rising. You are realigning. But you have to decide. No more rehearsal. No more dipping a toe in holy waters while clinging to demonic ties. It's time. Michael doesn't beg, but his presence bleeds in power. And that presence surrounds you now. Not to abolish, but to position. If you say yes in this hour, you will see more happen in months than you have in years. But if you ignore this message, if you shrug it off as just another sign, you will walk back into a storm you won't be able to pray your way out of. Not because God wants you to suffer, but because you refuse the shelter He sent. So take the sword, cut the tie, close the door, say the yes. Obedience is the only currency heaven accepts when the window opens. And child, that window is open right now. But not for long. There is no elevation without exchange. Heaven does not pour oil into hands already full of idols. And that's what Michael is asking you now, not to be perfect, but to empty your grip. To stop clenching what you once prayed for, when heaven is now offering something better. This isn't about punishment. It's about posture. Your spirit must be positioned in surrender before it can receive the next outpouring. But surrender always starts with subtraction, and the subtraction hurts because you love it. You prayed for it. You called it yours. But now, heaven calls it expired. You felt it even before these words found you. The discomfort, the disconnection, the discontent that crept in when everything around you seemed stable. That wasn't depression. It was divine disruption. The Spirit of God hath been disturbing your peace not to torment you, but to deliver you. What used to feel like a blessing now feels like a burden, because heaven has already shifted the weight of it off your destiny. The problem is, your hands haven't caught up. You're still holding what heaven has let go. And that's why you're tired. Archangel Michael has not withdrawn his presence, but he has raised the standard. His protection remains, but it now requires precision. Loose obedience won't hold under the next wave of warfare. You must choose now, because every delay you justify becomes an open door to deception. And the longer you keep doors open to people, places, or patterns not meant to walk with you, the more permission you give the enemy to interfere with the promise God hath been preparing. Type I am surrendered to get blessing 4545. And here's what you haven't considered. The thing you're afraid to let go of is likely the very thing blocking your promotion. You've been waiting for confirmation when heaven is waiting for closure. You've been asking for favor, but favor comes through the filter of obedience. Not perfection, obedience. That means walking away from the opportunity that looks good but sounds off. That means releasing the person whose words comfort you but whose presence drains you. That means ignoring the text, deleting the number, saying the goodbye, trusting the silence, and standing still when every part of you wants to run back. This is why Michael's voice echoes, not because he's far away, but because he's trying to reverberate through the chaos in your soul, the clutter in your mind, the noise in your circle, the manipulation in your own self-talk, the voice that keeps saying, "You're not ready," when heaven has already declared you are. The voice that says, "Maybe it's not that bad," when you know staying is slowly destroying your destiny. That voice is not divine. And if you don't learn to discern it, you will decorate your own spiritual prison with beautiful lies. Michael is standing at the gate, sword drawn, wings wide, still guarding, still waiting.
Knock, knock. Hi there. I'd love to show you what a K-12 powered school is really like.
Wings wide, still guarding, still waiting. But I won't, because heaven does not wait indefinitely while you negotiate with demons. At some point, the cloud lifts, and when it does, you don't want to be outside the covering. This is the last delay before the release, the final tug before the shift. You already feel it, don't you? That burning in your chest, that lump in your throat, that tension in your gut. That's not anxiety. That's activation. Type I'm aligned to get blessing 5050. There's a version of you that exists on the other side of this obedience. A stronger, clearer, freer version. One that doesn't wake up second-guessing your own worth. One that isn't bound to timelines you didn't create. One that walks into rooms with fire in your eyes and clarity in your spirit. One that doesn't crave validation because you've been filled with revelation. That version is not far. It's forming right now. But it needs your agreement. And here's the truth. You won't feel fully ready. You won't feel brave enough. But readiness is not the requirement. Willingness is. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the surrendered. That's what Michael is echoing now. That holy urgency. A divine insistence. You must move, even if your knees shake. You must say yes, even if your voice trembles. You must obey, even if your heart breaks. Because the pain of release is always lighter than the price of delay. You've been here long enough. You circle this season. Pray these prayers. Cry these tears. It's time. Time to let go. Time to trust what heaven sees. Time to accept that peace isn't found in what feels good, but in what's God ordained. Michael's sword is not to cut you. It's to cut you free. But you must stop pulling away every time he reaches for the chain. The next instruction is coming. But it will come until you obey the last one. And you know what that was. Deep down you already know. There is always one instruction that separates the called from the chosen. And for you, it wasn't complicated, it was just uncomfortable. That one thing you haven't done yet. That one phone number you didn't delete. That one door you left cracked open. That one compromise you justified in the name of timing. But heaven doesn't bless procrastinated obedience. And Archangel Michael's echo hasn't grown louder because the message has changed. It's grown louder because your silence has. You felt what must be released. You've even started to distance yourself in spirit. But your soul keeps reaching back. That's the war within you. Not because you're confused, but because you're hoping God will change his mind about what needs to go. But he won't. Because heaven knows what you don't. That small crack you've left open will become a floodgate if it isn't sealed now. Not later. Now. And the pain of obedience in this hour is the price of peace in your next. Michael has watched this cycle repeat. You climb high in the spirit, only to fall back into confusion the moment that familiar voice reaches out. And you call it connection, but he calls it contamination. Because every time you allow what God remove it to speak again, you forfeit a portion of clarity. And without clarity, even divine instructions feel burdensome. You weren't meant to carry that weight. You weren't created to walk with half vision and divided loyalty. You were meant to soar, but heaven will not inflate wings tied down by dead weight. Type I'm unchained to get blessing 7272. The last instruction God gave you still stands. He won't release a new one until you've honored the old one. That's why you feel stuck. That's why your prayers feel like echoes bouncing off stone. It's not that heaven isn't speaking. It's that heaven is still waiting. Waiting for you to close the door you keep peeking behind. Waiting for you to stop checking in on what you're supposed to be healed from. Waiting for you to stop flirting with the old while asking for the new. You can't mix altars. You can't light candles at a throne and still whisper to old idols. Heaven doesn't share custody of your spirit. That voice that keeps saying, "It's harmless" is lying. That invitation masked as just a conversation is spiritual sabotage. That friendship that feels so familiar. It's feeding the part of you that heaven is trying to crucify. You think you're being kind. You think you're being mature. But what you're actually doing is delaying your mandate in the name of diplomacy. Michael is not diplomatic. He's decisive. And he's calling you into that same spiritual sharpness. The atmosphere is shifting, and not just around you, but inside you. Your discernment has been trying to warn you.
Okay, so I can finally confirm that the Mercedes e-bike is real. I got a brand...
Your discernment has been trying to warn you. That pit in your stomach. That restlessness at night. That sudden weight of emotion when a certain name comes up. That's your spiritual radar screaming. That's Michael pushing the alarm one last time before he's forced to step back. Because angelic protection is holy, but not forceful. Michael will not wrestle with your will. If you insist on keeping what heaven is trying to sever, even angels withdraw in sorrow. If this word has ignited something in your spirit and stirred fresh courage within you, we encourage you to respond with a super thanks of $20. Your support enables us to continue releasing prophetic words that bring clarity, healing, and hope to those moving from betrayal into breakthrough. You sure to subscribe. I am this blessing, and here's what's urgent. The next assignment is already being released. The next door is being prepared. But heaven will not allow you to carry toxic loyalty into sacred space. The instruction is clear. That job, that city, that person, that habit, that false peace, it has to go. Not because it's evil, but because it's not aligned. And anything that isn't aligned becomes a liability in the spirit. This isn't rejection, it's redirection. This isn't loss, it's liberation. Obedience is the only posture that makes space for breakthrough. You've tried partial surrender, and you've seen the result: confusion. You've tried delay, and you've seen the result: restlessness. What you haven't tried yet is full release. Full silence toward what drains you. Full rejection of what once fed your dysfunction. Full reverence toward what heaven is whispering. That's the shift. That's the alignment Michael is waiting on. So go back to the last instruction. Revisit it. Write it down again. Speak it aloud. Then act on it. Without question. Without excuse. Without waiting for the timing to feel better. This isn't about comfort. It's about covenant. And your covenant is hanging in the balance while you hesitate. The door is still open, but not for long. This is your moment to act, not with emotion, but with precision. Heaven has spoken. The instruction is clear. Now it's your turn. There is a moment in the spiritual realm where your name is spoken aloud in heaven, not whispered. Deverne. It's not tied to your birthday. It's not tied to your good deeds. It's tied to moments like this, when divine instructions sit heavy on your chest and your response becomes the signal for the next wave of movement in your life. Archangel Michael didn't echo your name just to make you tremble. He spoke it because heaven is watching for your decision. This isn't a casual moment. It's divine timing layered in urgency. God isn't asking you to perform. He's asking you to respond. To act in faith even when your feelings beg you to stay still. That's what obedience looks like. Not emotionless, but unmoved by emotion. The fear you feel is expected, but the faith you hold, that's sacred. And heaven only partners with sacred trust, not emotional indecision. The echo of Michael's voice didn't come to haunt you. It came to hand you something. Something generational. Something too big to carry with compromised hands. You're not just walking away from what's wrong. You're walking toward what's been promised. The problem is you can't always see it. That's the test. The wilderness between the instruction and the manifestation always feels empty. But don't let that silence fool you. The loudest moves of God happen in quiet obedience. You will not get goosebumps. You will not always feel clarity. But you will know. Deep in your gut, deep in your bones, deep in the part of your spirit that knows it's time. Type I am chosen for more to get blessing 8484. Michael's echo on July 11th is heaven's stamp. A suggestion. A summons. Because the realm of spirit does not operate on good intentions. It moves on declarations and decisions. When your name is called in heaven, it means a shift hath been scheduled. But if you miss the moment, the shift rots. Not as punishment, but because heaven refuses to waste what you're not prepared to receive. The question now is not, is God speaking? It's, are you finally willing to move without all the answers? You've cried for a breakthrough. You've pleaded for peace. But both of those are not emotions. They are side effects of obedience. And obedience without trust is performance. That's not what Michael is asking for. He's asking for total submission, because what's coming next is not just for your benefit. It's for your bloodline. The door in front of you doesn't just lead to peace, it leads to purpose.
9 tablets of 100 milligram generic Viagra for $7 from Friday Plans. I thought.
The door in front of you doesn't just lead to peace, it leads to purpose. And if you ignore it, the delay won't just be felt by you. It will echo through everyone assigned to your voice. This is where destiny gets decided, not in church pews, but in private choices. The next time you receive that call, will you answer or decline? The next time you feel that urge to check in on a soul tie you've been told to cut, will you listen to the echo or the enemy? The next time your anxiety begs you to reach backward, will you obey the echo calling you forward? These are the micro decisions that shape major destinies. And Michael knows your pattern. He's seen you break halfway through. But this time, he's standing beside you with urgency in his wings. Because this time, you must finish. Type I am ready to finish to get blessing 5656. You don't need to have it all figured out. But you do need to walk. The protection you're asking for will meet you on the road, not in your delay. The clarity you're seeking will be given as you move, not while you overthink. God rarely lights up the entire staircase. He gives one step, and you already know what that step is. You've known it for a while now. It's not a lack of direction that's kept you stuck. It's a lack of follow-through. And Michael is echoing now because this time, the cost of delay will be too high. You weren't created to be average. You weren't built for cycles. You were called to disrupt generational dysfunctions and carry divine fire. But you cannot hold fire with fractured hands. You must choose now. Will you respond to your name being called, or will you pretend it was for someone else? This is not the season to play small. Not the moment to wait for perfect conditions. The gate is open now. The wind is shifting now. And your next level is already unlocked. It's your turn to walk through it. This is your moment of distinction. The one heaven has marked. The one the enemy has dreaded. The one your spirit has longed for. Don't lose it in the fog of familiar fears. Don't silence the echo with passive waiting. Rise. Move. Obey. Obedience doesn't just shift your atmosphere. It signals heaven to respond. Every time you say yes to God's instruction, even the painful, inconvenient, or unclear one, you activate a divine movement that no demon in hell can reverse. Archangel Michael knows what you don't, that the instant your heart aligns with heaven's timing, angels are released, blockages dissolve, and hidden enemies are exposed. The moment you obey, a chain reaction begins in the unseen realm. You think you're just walking away from someone, but in heaven, you're reclaiming territory. That's what's at stake now. Territory. Not land, not property, but spiritual space that belongs to your name, your purpose, your calling. And for too long, the enemy hath been squatting on it, using your delay as permission to trespass. But no more. The echo of Michael's voice on July 11th is not only a warning, it's a declaration. It's heaven saying, this space is no longer up for compromise. It's heaven saying, we're repossessing what was stolen. And you, yes, you, were the one chosen to take it back. But you cannot reclaim what you still flirt with. You cannot conquer what you're still feeding. Heaven cannot defend you in a battle you will admit you're in. That's why this message comes again, not to harass your spirit, but to remind it. Remind you of who you really are. Remind you that you don't belong to the cycle. You belong to the covenant. Remind you that you weren't created to chase breadcrumbs of validation. You were built to walk with divine authority. Type I'm reclaiming my space to get blessing 6767. Michael is not just a protector. He's a warrior assigned to announce when the shift begins. And the shift has already begun. You felt it when your peace suddenly left places that used to feel like home. You sensed it when the compliments started to feel hollow. When the room felt crowded but your spirit felt alone. That was the detachment starting. That was heaven calling you to another dimension. One where you don't have to shrink to be loved or perform to be accepted. But elevation is a lonely road. You won't be able to take everyone. And that's the part no one wants to talk about. That when you finally obey, the backlash isn't just spiritual, it's relational. People will misunderstand your movement. They'll see you've changed. They'll accuse you of being too deep, too intense, too serious. Let them. You weren't called to be relatable. You were called to be set apart. And set apart people don't explain. They execute the instruction. You're not just walking into a new season. You're stepping into your assignment. The version of you that heaven is releasing cannot be watered down to fit rooms of mediocrity. That's why it's been uncomfortable lately. The grace for that old place has lifted. The covering for that old connection had been removed. And now, Michael stands over you, not with pity, but with preparation. The sword is drawn. The space is cleared. And heaven is waiting on your footstep. Type I'm stepping in now to get blessing 9898. You've already been given permission. The only thing left is your participation. This is where most people freeze, between instruction and activation. Don't let that be you. You've come too far. You've cried too long. You've been prepared for this very moment. The chains you've been dragging were never yours to carry. They were forged in fear and locked by delay. But now the key has been handed to you, in the form of obedience. One act, one decision, one courageous step can rewrite your whole story. You may not see the fruit yet, but the seed of your surrender is already planted. And heaven always honors what is sown in faith. What looks like a quiet no to the world is a thunderous yes in the spirit. And when you move in alignment, heaven responds in acceleration. Doors open. Cycles break. Destiny ignites. Not because you earned it, but because you agreed with it. That's the miracle of obedience. It moves heaven before it ever moves earth. Michael has not left your side. His wings are still outstretched.
What standard is required to publish a book at the highest level in 2025? If you've written a book and
his wings are still outstretched. His sword still burns with holy fire. But his waiting will not be forever. This is your moment to move, not because you're forced, but because you're finally free. Let your spirit rise above the doubt. Let your feet obey what your soul already knows. You are not behind. You are becoming. And obedience is your invitation to arrive. Some breakthroughs don't come until you give a final, irreversible yes. Not a half-hearted yes. Not a convenient one. Not a yes until it hurts response. But a full-bodied, spirit-led, no turning back yes. That's the kind of obedience Archangel Michael has been waiting for. Not because heaven is testing your limits, but because what's coming requires you to be untangled from everything that made you double-minded. You can't walk into divine fullness while still being partially entangled in past attachments. You've tasted enough of the old to know it leads nowhere. You've seen how the same patterns keep presenting themselves in different costumes. And yet something in you still believe it. Maybe this time it will be different. But Michael's echo on July 11th isn't leaving room for that kind of wishful thinking anymore. That version of you, the one who hesitates, compromises, negotiates, is not permitted in the next room. The final yes isn't just your exit from cycles. It's your entrance into assignment. This isn't just about closing doors. It's about becoming the door through which heaven moves on earth. That's why your obedience matters so much right now. You are no longer just praying for yourself. You are carrying others with your decision. Your alignment will become someone else's answered prayer. Your breakthrough will shake loose someone else's bondage. And that's why the pressure has intensified. Because you're carrying more than you thought. And hell knows it. That's why the opposition has been unrelenting. But heaven knows it too, and that's why Michael has stayed. Type I say yes fully to get blessing 8181. You are not ordinary. You were never meant to be. You carry a blueprint within your spirit that hell has tried to decode and destroy since the day you were born. But what hell couldn't factor in was your resilience. What demons didn't anticipate was your willingness to rise even when all odds stood against you. And that willingness, now turned into full surrender, is the very thing heaven is about to breathe on. This is the tipping point. The moment where final decisions create supernatural reactions. Do not underestimate what one act of radical obedience can do. The moment you sever that connection, delete that number, walk away from that place, say no to that habit, or refuse to bow to fear, something breaks in the spirit realm. You may not see it, but Michael does. And as soon as that final yes leaves your mouth, angels are dispatched. Assignments are activated. Timelines are accelerated. Delays are reversed. And the thing you thought would take years happens in weeks. But that kind of movement can only follow a full yes. Not a maybe. Not a later. Not a when I feel ready. The anointing you're asking for doesn't rest on the hesitant. It falls on the submitted. And you already know what God has asked you to submit. You've been circling the instruction, avoiding the confirmation, pretending not to what your spirit already recognized. But Michael is echoing again, because this yes is not optional. It heretical. It is life-shifting. And it will either be your bridge or your blockage. If this message is piercing your spirit and helping you step into divine truth, consider giving a super chat or super thanks today. Your support of $20 helps us continue creating powerful, prophetic messages like this one. We are grateful for every seed you sow. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. And be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. You'll receive regular prophetic guidance, exclusive content, and spiritual tools to keep you aligned with your divine path. Type I am submitted to get blessing 9992. Heaven doesn't give repeat revelations just for comfort. When God repeats a message, it's because the urgency is rising. And you've been receiving echoes in everything lately. Songs, conversations, memories, dreams, interruptions. That's not your imagination. It's divine persistence. Because you are too close to forfeit this now. The release you've been praying for is already in the atmosphere. The chains are already weakened. The resistance is already tired. All that's left is your yes. Don't overthink it. Don't ask for another sign. You are the sign. Your obedience is the indicator that heaven needs to move. A delay ends when you decide it does. The warfare loses its grip when you finally close the back door you left open in case obedience didn't work out. This isn't a trial run. This is your turning point. And heaven is cheering you forward while Michael stands ready, not with sadness, but with a fire in his eyes that says, "Let's go." You will never regret saying yes to what aligns with your calling. You may mourn what you left behind. You may cry as you delete the contacts and distance yourself from dysfunction.
You need an LLC. It's protecting you. It's keeping your business and your personal life separate. So go to Taylor Brands and
As you delete the contacts and distance yourself from dysfunction. But once the glory comes, once the oil flows, once the favor follows, you'll understand it was never a loss. It was an exchange. And child, you traded up. When you finally release what heaven asked you to surrender, it may sting, but it never leaves you empty. Because in the kingdom, God never takes without giving. He never prunes without preparing a harvest. Your final yes, the one Michael has been echoing for weeks, wasn't just the end of something painful. It was the beginning of something powerful. What you traded away, those secret attachments, recycled relationships, soul-draining environments, were never meant to carry your future. What you gained instead is divine access, authority, alignment, and it's already unlocking things that eyes haven't seen. You see, heaven doesn't bless who you pretend to be. It blesses who you become through obedience. And now that you obeyed, fully, finally, the oil can flow. The distractions are being cleared. The fog is lifting. Your mind is sharpening. Your dreams are returning. You don't need to force momentum anymore. The flow is coming because you made room. The windows of heaven open after the surrender, not before. Coming to you now was held back not because God was cruel, but because you weren't yet prepared to manage the weight of it without compromise. Archangel Michael has stood watch this entire time, warring over your delay, shielding you in your confusion, and now rejoicing over your decision. Because you broke the cycle. You silenced the echo of old voices so you could finally hear the true echo, heaven calling you higher. You didn't just say yes with your mouth, you said it with your movement. That's why everything feels different now. Your spirit isn't just hopeful, it's heavy with promise. And that heaviness isn't pressure, it's power. You're not burdened, you're pregnant with what's next. Type I am walking in fullness to get blessing 7,878. Don't expect everyone to understand this shift. This shift. The ones who benefited your silence. Benefited from your silence won't celebrate your voice. The ones who profited from your confusion won't honor your clarity. That's okay. Obedience isn't about agreement. It's about advancement. You didn't trade up for approval. You traded up for assignment. And now you're in alignment. Heaven is making up for lost time. What took years to delay will only take days to redeem. You'll start to notice the shift soon, if not already. Doors that were closed will suddenly unlock. Conversations that drained you will lose their grip. Ideas will come faster. Energy will rise. Favor will start to feel normal. That's not coincidence. That's what follows a surrendered spirit. When you gave that final yes, you gave heaven permission to release what had been withheld, not because of punishment, but because of protection. And now that your hands are clean, you can hold the weight of blessing without dropping it. Michael's role has also shifted. He's still guarding you, but now he's going before you. His sword is clearing the path, removing interference, preparing divine appointments. You are no longer being shielded and waiting. You are being escorted into destiny. And that path may not be wide, but it is right. Don't let old patterns seduce you back into hesitation. You've already come too far. The air is thinner here because fewer are willing to climb. But this is where you belong. Don't question the altitude. You were made for it. Type I am advancing now to get blessing 4441. You'll start to realize why it took so long. Why the resistance was so fierce. Why the battle felt spiritual even when it looked natural. Because the enemy was trying to keep you from this moment. A moment where your clarity becomes contagious. Where your faith activates miracles. Where your obedience makes you a portal for others to follow. That's what this final yes was always about. It wasn't just for you. It was generational. What you just unlocked will bless people you haven't even met yet. So now, you must steward it. Protect it. Guard it the way heaven guarded you. Not with fear, but with focus. The old triggers will try to return. Familiar spirits may knock again. But now you're different. Now you're marked. And once you've tasted freedom, bondage starts to stink. What used to tempt you now repulses you. It's not just growth, it's glory. That's the evidence that heaven has landed. Michael's echo has served his purpose. But don't think the journey ends here. This was just the opening of the gate. Now you walk through it, step by step, fully awake, fully armed, fully aligned. Here is the final closing part of your prophetic script, wrapping up the entire message with authority, reverence, and clarity. You heard the echo. You felt the urgency. You've wrestled in the silence, warred in the quiet, cried behind doors no one knew you were behind. And still, heaven waited. Michael never left your side. God never withdrew his voice. They just waited for your yes to turn into movement. And now that it has, the realm of heaven is responding not with hesitation, but with holy speed. The gate is open. The way is cleared. Your name has been spoken, sealed, and sent into a new season. You didn't just cross into something better. You crossed into something divine. You traded uncertainty for clarity. You exchanged survival for significance. The angels that once stood back in sorrow are now surrounding you in celebration. You are not who you were a month ago. You are not who you were yesterday. This shift didn't require an audience, a pulpit, or a prophetic announcement. It required surrender. And that's what you gave. That's why the protection remains. That's why the promise is now in motion. Now you must walk boldly. No more questioning. No more explaining your obedience to those who won't understand it. No more thinking. No more waiting for someone else to validate what heaven already confirmed. You've been called. You've been chosen. You've been covered. And now you are carried. Every step you take from here forward is not random. It is anointed. Every door you walk through was prepared in advance. And every word you speak, when rooted in obedience, will carry the authority of heaven behind it. This is your moment. This is your assignment. This is your release. Go forward. With fire. With focus. With faith. You obeyed. Now watch what follows. If this word has confirmed your spirit and awakened your boldness, consider supporting with a super thanks of $20. Your support allows us to keep releasing prophetic guidance, clarity, and strength for others walking through betrayal into blessing. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video.